am so convinced that freedom is the issue and that markets work, that it's absolutely the best humanitarian system. But yet we lose that argument. You know, those of us who talk about that, we get on the defensive and we say, oh, you're the ones who don't care about the poor people. You put poor people out on the streets and you don't care about the people who suffer and the people who might be victims of other dictators, so you don't care. But the whole thing is that free markets and sound money produces great prosperity, but we have undermined that. Today, our government tells us, oh, you worry too much, there's no inflation, and the economy is doing well, and you know, there's no unemployment, and yet young people, middle-class people, many others, retired people are starting to feel the brunt of what we have. They say there's no inflation. Oh, if you count food and energy, oh yeah, inflation is a lot higher. Yeah, like nobody has to live or drive their car or pay doctor bills, you know. So there's a lot of skepticism. This is what I sense when I go around the country. A lot of skepticism, and people are looking for answers, and we do have the answers. Freedom does provide the answer. And it's literally available to us by following and having respect for the rule of law. And that's not so difficult. You know, we have the goals that we all may share in, but then we have the rule of law and how we get to those goals. I don't think there's ever any disagreement between conservatives, libertarians, and liberals on the ultimate goals. There are some who their goal is only power, but for the most part, most Americans want to do right and help people. But they don't understand economics and they don't understand how liberty works. And that's what we need to encourage. We need to explain it to them. We have to understand ourselves so we can spread this message. And this is what I'm sensing, is that a lot more people are interested because they're starting to realize that we have these problems. It doesn't seem difficult for me to talk to no matter what crowd now, even the Republican crowds, but especially those who have become less Republican and more independent, and they're more constitutional, more conservative than they are loyalty to a party. So I can talk now about a foreign policy of non-interventionism and minding our own business and suggesting very strongly it's time to come home. And just think how much money we could save. There's an economic benefit. Not only do we get out of this mess and we don't have to lose 100 and some men every month, but we save a lot of money. If we had a different foreign policy, we could save literally hundreds of billions of dollars. If you add up everything that we do to maintain our empire, we're in 133 countries of the world, and it costs a lot of money to maintain the military, and the equipment is always being torn down and never up to par. We undermine our National Guard and our reserve units, and we take them away from our shores, and they're not here when we need them. We even take our border guards and send them over to Iraq to train border guards in Iraq while ignoring our own borders. It doesn't make any sense. So there's all those advantages, but the monetary issue of saving the money is tremendous. You could save $200, $300, $400 billion, as much as possible. Put a lot of that to the deficit, and then you can actually have more money for a transitional period for the people who would become totally dependent. Because although I have the belief that total free markets and the absence of all welfare is an ideal system, but it's not going to work overnight, and we have to have a plan to do this. Today, there are some cuts being proposed in Washington, but it's usually for somebody receiving some medical care someplace. You know, it doesn't make any sense on what they attack. But you could save money and actually tie people over and still allow the young people to get out of Social Security and teach them to be self-reliant. So there are economic answers to this, and they say, well, that could be chaotic. But what we're doing is chaotic. Whether we stay in Iraq, it's chaotic. If we leave, there could be a mess over there. But it could go much better than any of us dreamed. Today, in Vietnam, we lost 60,000 men. The military approach didn't work, They have become westernized, they have been capitalized, we're over there investing money, we trade with them and travel back and forth, all because we finally got around to following the advice of the founders who said, don't fight, don't get involved in an entangling alliance, don't get involved in internal affairs, talk with people and trade with them, and you'll become friends. That is the problem too often of those others take that position and say, well, you're un-American. You're un-American because you don't want to go and do good around the world. You don't want to support the troops. Well, just think, if we supported the Constitution, not many of our troops would have died in these last 4 years. You know, the issue